that every time you take a drink, they take a drink. So we may have to pass some water out, okay? So be careful how much water you drink.
We know that from a financial standpoint, we're going to see some changes as times change. I have a friend who owns a bunch of banks, and they were saying, you know, it won't be long, and we will not be using currency. You know, we'll be going, you know, fully digital. And what happens into no buy, no sell, and you know, you can't use money to buy things. Are there things that we can use to maybe barter? Well, what about medical missionary things? You know, if a person is ailing, you can go and help them. My roommate at SMC, his daddy was a doctor up on the mountain. He didn't make his money as a doctor. He made it in real estate. But because as a doctor, people up on the mountain, they would come and bring him eggs, chickens, potatoes, and that's how he paid them. They paid him. And it may go back to that. You know, we may get our taters and our maters. You all know what taters and maters are, don't you? Okay. And, you know, by helping people, you know, if they have a health issue and we're able to help them out. It's a huge entering wedge. Is that slide working okay? Okay. Yes, sir? All right, great. Okay, let's see if it works. Yeah, it works. Great, excellent. So we're going to talk about optimum immunity, how to achieve it. Pardon? So why is the immune system important? Keeps you well, yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. A pound, yes, it's true. Prevention is so important, and I'm a big prevention person, coming from the fireside. And many times we're not careful. An example in my turnouts, in my fire turnouts, in this pocket right here, I've got my olive oregano. And it's right there in the case I need it. And olive oregano is like a .357 Magnum. I mean, it is powerful. If you are in the incipient stage, that means when the fire is just starting. Have you ever felt like you're starting to get sick? I mean, all of a sudden, just boom, you feel it. And 5 minutes before, you didn't feel it, but you're starting to feel it right here. You're starting to feel it in here. You're starting to feel it here, and you're whatever. And boom, you feel like it. You're catching something. If you use olive oregano in that incipient stage immediately, usually that takes care of it. You may have to use it 2 hours later. That's it. It's done. But if you wait and let it get a hold of you, as we say in the mountains, it's got you. It's kind of like sin, you know? The more sin grows, the more when you pull it out, it rips other stuff with it. And when you, like weeds, you know, you pull them weeds out. If you can catch this in the beginning stages, it's over. Even if you're taking Tamiflu is not, they're going to tell you it's not going to work over 48 hours, after 48 hours. You've got to catch it in that beginning stage. Well, first of all, if you do oil of oregano, you want to mix it with a carrier oil. You don't want to do it neat if you're sticking it in your mouth, because you can burn your esophagus, you can burn your tongue, your mouth. And so I'll mix it 1 part oil of oregano, 3 parts olive oil, which a lot of your essential oils that are mixed or that like the P72, it's already mixed of 1 to 3. And it does pretty well. I personally, I don't like being sick, and so I hit it hard. So I put 10 drops under my tongue, but don't do that to start with. You're going to think I'm trying to kill you. It's kind of stout when you go to swallow it. And so start out slow, maybe 3 drops and work your way up. But
So where do you get this stuff besides your store?
a health food store. Yeah, health food store.
Okay.
Yeah. But all over.
I know where it is.
Yes. Yeah, Earth Fair. So there's things you can do to boost that immune system, and that's what we're going to talk about. So the first question is optimal immunity, how to achieve it. First is what is the immune system? Things not to do, because there's things that we do that cause the problem. Things to do, and things that can help us, like the oil of oregano. So number 1, the immune system distinguishes self from non-self and eliminates potentially harmful non-self molecules and cells from the body. The immune system also has the capacity to recognize and destroy abnormal cells that derive from host tissue. Any molecule capable of being recognized by the immune system is considered as an antigen. And so that's just, but I know most of y'all came to say, find out, what do we got to do? This is Merck Manual. The skin, cornea, and mucosa of the respiratory and the gastrointestinal tract form a physical barrier that is the body's first line of defense. Some of these barriers also have active immune functions. Things not to do. If I have a piece of sandpaper and I'm rubbing my arm, what's going to happen? I'm going to rip the hide off of it. And you say, oh, honey, let me put some medicine on it. And you go put some medicine on it. And you leave and I go to rubbing it again. You come back tomorrow and you say, oh, honey, I need to put some more on there. And you put some more. I'm talking country here. And you put some more on there. And then you leave and I go, is it going to heal? No. And many times that is the philosophy that we use in healthcare. We don't stop the root cause. We just keep putting medicine on it. Until we stop that root cause, the problem's not going to go away. So the first thing you want to do is identify the cause. Inspiration says, we should use less and less dosing of medication until we use no medication at all. And she says the way you do that is through understanding physiology. Now, in no way do I tell people to get off your medication. Here's an example. When I worked in healthcare, I never saw reversal of type 2 diabetes. Never. When I left, corporate told me, I told them I was going to a place that could reverse type 2 diabetes. They told me I was crazy. They said, Walt, you're crazy. You can't. You're going to ruin your reputation. I said, we can even improve type 1. And then they said, Walt, you are stupid. That's what they said. Well, I left. And guess what? We had over a 98% reversal rate of type 2 diabetes. And type 1, we had significant improvement. So what's the difference? Why did I work in an industry for 20 years that never reversed one case that I ever saw to where we had over a 98%? We got to root cause. We studied the physiology instead of the pharmacology. And so it's very important. But let's say you have a type 1. And you have a type 1. It is not uncommon to see, say, a type 1 at 60 to 80 units of insulin a day go to 5-10 units a day. Is that improvement? Yes. Absolutely. Did we plumb get rid of the insulin? No. I don't know how to do that yet. So do you pull the insulin away and say, no, we don't use it? No, you can kill that person. And so as we study, I believe there's an answer to it. I just ain't figured it out yet. But I believe there's a way that we can get to type 1. We just have to keep studying and studying. Because if she says, and again, I'm an if-then statement person. If she says that we should use less and less dosing of medication until we don't use any at all. If that's so, that is a promise. Yes? Now, what do we do for anesthesia? I'm not sure on that one yet. Who's been to Chickamauga Battlefield? Nobody's been to Chickamauga Battlefield? That's in Georgia. It's right outside of Fort Oglethorpe. So I went to Chickamauga Battlefield one time, and they were having a reenactment. I didn't know it till I got there, and I went to and the battle was won at Snodgrass Hill. It's the last major battle won on the way to Atlanta. It's the largest battlefield in the United States. So I go into Snodgrass House. Their names were Snodgrass. And the South took the home from the Snodgrasses and used it as a field hospital. So I go in there in the kitchen. They've got a table. And on the table, it has a doctor's bag. It's got a saw that's about this long with real little teeth. Well, I figured what that thing was for. And then it had a bottle of liquor. And I knew what that thing was for. But I didn't know what the fourth thing was for. And I asked the guy, I said, I know what the medical bag is. I know what the saw's for. I know what the liquor's for. What is the ball-peen hammer for? He said, when the liquor don't work. I said, now you've got a subdural hematoma. That is not a good thing. So we've got to figure out, we just have to keep studying and studying. And so I'm not telling people ever to go off their medication. Work with your physician on that. But I found things that we see improvement and monitor your outcomes. And you can many times make changes. So things not to do. So look at root cause. What is causing the problems? And then you don't have a problem. If you don't run stop signs, you may be able to prevent a lot of wrecks and tickets. Would you agree? It's pretty common sense. Okay, number one, top three. I call them the 3 S's. Sugar, stress, and sleep deprivation. Those 3 guys are top immune killers. Who's read the book Proof Positive by Neil Nedley? Great. Proof Positive by Dr. Neil Nedley. I'm sure y'all have heard of Dr. Neil Nedley. Okay. Excellent book. It's old. It was written back in the late 90s, but still excellent information. In there, Neil talks about a 12-ounce soft drink will take out your immune system 50% for 4 hours. A 12-ounce soft drink. And who's drinking a 12-ounce soft drink? I had a guy come in recently, diabetes, and so I'm doing an assessment, and I said, so how much water do you do? He goes, I don't do water. I said, what do you do? He says, I drink Mountain Dew. And I said, well, how much do you do? He says, I do 3 liters a day. Are you surprised he's got an issue with diabetes? No. And so if 12 ounces will wipe out your immune system, 50% for 4 hours, think what this guy's doing. Now, before I changed, and literally I had a conversion on this. When I worked in healthcare, I did a lot of traveling and teaching also. And I would go on the road, and so I didn't drink coffee. I tried it in high school. I tried it in college. I hated the taste of it, so I didn't do coffee. But I still needed something for energy. So I'd pull into the gas station, and I'd get me a Dr. Pepper and a Snickers bar. Now, we're talking Snickers bars like this, not the ones today, but the little ones like when we were kids. And so I'd go in and get me a Dr. Pepper and a Snickers bar. And that's then what I would use for energy driving across the state of North Carolina as I was working, teaching. And Neil said that, so your Dr. Pepper is going to wipe out your immune system how much? 4 hours. What percentage? 50%. Neil said, add the Snickers bar. This one, not this one, this one. He said, now only 1 out of 14 white cells is working for 4 hours. You just anesthetize 13 white cells. Now, we're only talking 12 ounces. We're only talking about a little Snickers bar this big. Think of what folks are doing. A milkshake, average size milkshake, an average size piece of cheesecake is about the same amount, somewhere between 92 and 93% of immune systems wiped out for 4 hours. So I go to the meetings, and so I've stopped at a gas station. I've gotten my immune suppressor, and I go to the meeting, and I go in there, and guess what they have? Danishes. Oh, they're so good. And I'd get me a Danish, and I'd walk up to, oh, George, how you doing? And George just rubbed his nose a minute, and he's got some cold going on, and he shakes my hand. And then I finish eating my Danish. Do you see why I got sick? Yeah, it's real simple. Sugar is huge on wiping out our immune system. Stress. We'll talk more about stress, but stress is huge on wiping out our immune system. Sleep deprivation is also very, very big, and that's my challenge. That is my challenge. Last night, I went to bed. I knew I had to get up at 4:30 this morning, and I have had calls. I don't get paid for what I do. I'm a volunteer. I've done it since 1980 when I started at SMC. It's a way I can give back to my community. It's a way when someone has a car wreck, I can sit there and I can pray with them, and I can point them to God. I had one just recently. I had a guy, he was younger than me, and he had a heart attack. And I asked the wife, I said, can I inform a church for you? She says, we don't go to church. Well, as I'd gone and and the man did not make it. We had picked everything back up. We'd put him in the ambulance for them to take off. And I went back in to make sure. I don't like leaving, gloves and packaging and stuff like that. The wife doesn't need to see that. The son doesn't need to see that. So I make sure everything's clean and not for them to see. And I'd gone to make sure everything was gone, just one extra time. And I'm getting ready to leave. The son comes up to me. The son's in his late 30s. And he said, why does bad things happen? Do you think I had an opportunity to talk about there's this war going on between God and Satan? Yeah, there's an opportunity. Absolutely, take it. So I have a lot of those opportunities, being able to be out there and help people. And the challenge is, and even if it's Friday night, if there's a wreck, I'll go help them. Now, no, I don't make the guys clean the fire truck on Friday night and Sabbath. No, we don't have to, wash the hose and all that stuff. They get a break. They're getting that break too. They just know that when I came in as chief, they didn't have to do all that stuff on Sabbath. Yes, we got to go take care of the person that's hurt, but we don't have to do all that other stuff. We'll take care of it later. So last night I prayed, God, I need to get sleep tonight. I don't want to, because we get a lot of wrecks on I-40 as they go into Tennessee. And so my son, who's our captain, he's down at Florida. And so I needed to be there if we had a call. And I prayed, God, please don't let there be. Because I didn't want to blow my immune system. I didn't want to come tired. I didn't want to come late. And so God bless, he answered that. We didn't have a call last night. So that was good.
And you didn't have any traffic this morning.
And the traffic was decent, and I was early. So it worked out good. Sleep deprivation.
Do you find that the soda pops that you talked about, Dr. Pepper and the Mountain Dew, do you find those keep you awake at night?
If a person drinks them, yes.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm asking. Do you find that they keep you awake?
I don't do it anymore.
Coffee does, but do you find
when I used to do them,
yeah.
I don't do them anymore.
Well, I don't do them anymore either.
But they did. They kept me awake.
Yeah.
Sure, the caffeine. Now, if you want to get the same benefit, don't use a water bottle, because it will melt the plastic, and then you end up drinking plastic. So what you do is you get a pint-sized jar, and you can be a mason jar or a metal water bottle, and put, say, 2 drops of peppermint essential oil.
Yeah.
Wakes you right up. Or you can put some cayenne pepper in there. Say maybe 18 drops of cayenne pepper. That'll keep you awake. Works pretty good. So you don't have to use the caffeine to keep you awake if there is a situation to keep you awake. Yes, sir. It is. It's interesting. Who's taking health care? Okay. So remember when we were in school, we learned about the lymphatic system. Well, when we were in school, we did not learn, the brain did not have a lymphatic system. And if you looked at the chart, It was just, you'd see the lymphatic system everywhere except the brain. Well, guess what? It does. It's called the glymphatic system. And Harvard found that the glymphatic system kicks on around 9 o'clock at night. And it does a deep clean from 9 to 10. And from 10 o'clock to midnight, it does a thorough clean. And Brad Emdy is the guy, the optometrist up at our church, is the one that keyed me in on that around 2014, 2015. So I went to Harvard and said, look, is that, and Brad was right. It was interesting research. And so if you're not asleep by 9 o'clock, you ain't flushing the toilet from the brain. Very important. Yes, organs work better. They do the recuperating those hours before midnight, your gallbladder, your liver. And so, yes. And do I say it's true? I am not the normal person out there today. Let me see here. Anybody have a Bible on them?
Yeah.
Great. I'm a little different, but I'm just an old country boy. Who wrote this? Who are some people who wrote this? And was it their wisdom that wrote it, or were they inspired? Who were they inspired by? Okay. The quotes that I read earlier, the red books, who wrote that? Who inspired her? Okay. So if I tell you something, and I tell you something, is it the same? No. Okay, if I tell you something, and it's from me, like I grew up in Sequatchie County, Tennessee, and I tell you I grew up in Sequatchie County, Tennessee, is it still the same authority? Is it true? Yes. I told you, and I told you. It came from me. This came from the Holy Spirit. The red books came from the Holy Spirit. Yes? Yes. Okay. So is that valid from God? Yes. So to answer your question, is it true that the hours before midnight were twice the hour? Inspiration says it is. That's good enough for me. As we look at proven things, here's an example. Vitamin D level. And we'll talk about vitamin D in a few minutes, but we'll kind of talk about it right now just to explain that, and then I won't talk about it then. I had this lady come in, and she brought me her labs, and her vitamin D level was 12. Is that good? No. Her vitamin D is 12. The lab will tell you 30 to 100. Three things about her. One, she's taking 5,000 IUs a day, and she still has a 12. She is Caucasian. Now, when I went to Africa last time, how many of y'all know a guy from South Georgia, black guy by the name of Irvin Davis? He's who was at Uchee or Wildwood? Okay. He works at, he used to work at Wildwood, now he works at Uchee. Very nice fellow, black physician. I took him to Africa the last time I went. And when we talked, and we taught the physicians and the nutritionists and the nurses in Rwanda, he would tell them, he'd say, our skin has sunglasses on it. And he said it takes 6 times more sun exposure to get the same amount of vitamin D as it does for Walt. Because we have sunglasses on our skin. It's the pigmentation. Number 2, this lady's Caucasian, so she doesn't have the darker pigmentation. Number 3, she works in landscaping all year long. Outside all year long. She should have good vitamin D. She's getting a lot of sunshine, and she takes 5,000 IUs, but she's only got a 12. So I said, okay, let's go to 5,000 twice a day, so we went to 10,000. We waited 3 months, tested again. She was at 17 or 18. Wow, that's not good. So I've got a good buddy. Any of y'all know Ted Watkins? Anybody know Ted Watkins? He's a black surgeon up in D.C. Went to Oakwood. Very, very good friend of mine. And he does a lot in vitamin D research. So I called Watkins and I said, Watkins, here's the situation. What do you think? He goes, wow. He goes, let's do 20,000 BID twice a day. So we're doing 40,000 a day, 3 months. 3 months. You know what it was? 24. 24. And I called Watkins back. I said, Watkins, I got 24. He goes, wow. He goes, we got to study this. So within the same week, he gives me a call, and it's around probably 11 o'clock, and he said, Walt, did you see that study come out today on vitamin D and magnesium? I said, yeah, I saw it. He goes, try that on that lady. And we did. Waited 3 more months. Vitamin D was 97. Now, why am I saying this? To answer your question. When I first started in healthcare, I remember them telling us, don't have your vitamin D over 32, it's dangerous. Dr. Arvo Khanna, and I've done this same lecture with Arvo. Arvo is internal medicine. Went to Loma Linda. He's a neurologist, specializes in brain function. And Arvo tells his patients, I don't want your vitamin D less than 60 for cognitive function. Watkins in D.C., he's wanting it 80 to 100 for bone density and for immune system. So as we look at what we say is even today, we say that it's 30 to 100, but here's experts saying, no, we need to be up towards 100. There's a lady here in Atlanta. She fights cancer by boosting their vitamin D level up to 205. That's the blood vitamin D level. And you say, but what about kidney stones? She says, I can work with kidney stones a whole lot easier than I can stage 4 cancer. And she's having good success fighting cancer by boosting it up to the 205. So as we look at what we say is this today, it can be something totally different tomorrow in science. But when God says it, the hours before midnight, or twice the hours after midnight, boom, that's in solid. He's the guy who made science. And so I take that to the bank. Yes?
When it becomes toxic?
That's a good question. They used to tell us at over 32. We know this physician in Atlanta is doing it at 205, and she leaves them there until the cancer's gone. And she's had no problems with toxicity. The only 2 problems that she has found, that we're finding, one is it can cause kidney stones, but that's rare. And it's even more rare, but it can happen, but it's very rare. It can cause an arrhythmia. And so you just monitor for any arrhythmias. But what do I tell people? The lab says 30 to 100. Be there at 100. If you'll be at 100, you're in good. That's good. Yeah, it's not toxic.
The over-the-counter ones are 2 weeks.
Or 2 week?
Yeah, because they are low level. So
You want to, there's vitamin D2 and there's vitamin D3.
yeah,
D3 lasts twice as long in the system than D2. Now, we used to think that D3 was only from animal source. That is not true. You can get D3 from sea vegetables. You can also get D3 from mushrooms.
and I heard it has to be associated with K.
Yes, you'd like to have it with K too, and you'd also like to have it with some oil, and you don't want I like the liquid better, but you want it with K2, you want it with oil, and you want it with magnesium. Yes.
So where can you find all these?
Talk to your local health food store. They should know. Yes. Yes. Or find someone here that knows someone that's reputable. Yes.
Is it K or K2?
It's K2.
K2.
And actually, if you get K2, MK7, MK7 actually even is going to do a better job. K2, MK7.
Is it
Nuts, it's something else. Yeah. Okay. So, things not to do, don't eat sugar. And even I was attending a class of a good friend of mine, he's a physician. And he was talking one day, and he said, for your immune system, if you're sick or someone in the family is sick, don't drink fruit juice, like orange juice. And I'm going, no, you're supposed to drink orange juice. We've always been told that. So afterwards, after the class, I'm not going to say no. And so after I said, Phil, what are you talking about? He goes, well, look at the fructose. Now we know that. That was 19 years ago. But we didn't know it. But the fruit juice, I was taking a class this week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday evening. And we were studying some behavior issues. And a lady had been juicing. And the instructor said, well, because she was juicing, it affected her glucose. I said, you're assuming that she drank fruit juice. If it was vegetable juice, no, it's not going to affect her glucose. But yes, fruit juice can affect glucose. Why? Because you've taken the fiber out. Fiber it causes time release. And if you want, if your blood sugar dropped, do I want to give you an apple or apple juice? Apple juice. And so if you're sick, eat the apple, eat the orange, but don't eat. And plus, if you eat an orange, how many oranges are in an orange juice? You're not going to eat that many oranges or that many apples. You're just going to do the one. So don't drink, if you are sick or someone's sick in the house, don't do the fruit juices. And here's another thing. If you drink juice, don't drink juice. If you drink juice, you miss a third of your digestion. A couple years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a physician. And I was telling him, I think for this issue, I think juicing would be very good. He goes, I never recommend juicing for my patients. And I said, why? He said, they're missing a third of their digestion. I said, you're exactly right. They are, if they drink it. So what happens, be right there in just a sec. So what happens is when you got to look at what's remember what I said you had to go back to physiology? What happens in the mouth? 3 major things in the mouth. One is taste. God made food taste good. God gave us taste buds. And He did that so it would make us want more. Yes? So it would entice us to eat. The next thing the mouth is supposed to do is masticate, puree. You want to puree it to baby food consistency. Baby food consistency. Someone recently brought a picture of their daughter. She's 4 years old, and the daughter had thrown up the night before. And I looked at it. It looked like dog vomit. I mean, she had had macaroni and cheese for supper, and there was macaroni and cheese come out of her stomach, just like it looked on the plate. The little girl doesn't chew her food. She just inhales it. I said, well, there's one problem right there. You need to work on that. But what happens is you want to puree your food to, see, we don't have teeth in our stomach. And we're not cows. We don't chew our cud. And so you want to chew it up to puree and then swallow it. The third thing is supposed to happen in the mouth. Who has ever mixed concrete in a wheelbarrow? Y'all know what a wheelbarrow is? A wheelbarrow. Okay. Or ladies, who has made a cake? Yes? Okay, so you got your wheelbarrow. You put in your sackcrete and you put in your liquid. Is it ready to pour in the hole? Ladies, if you make a cake, you put in your powder, you put in the liquid, and you stick the bowl in the oven. No, you've got to mix it till the powder soaks up the liquid. Yes? There's no dry powder. If you had let's say you're diabetic and you had some grape juice, but you didn't want it as concentrated, so you poured some water with it and stirred it. That water is going to mix with the grape juice, yes? Okay. In the mouth, you have saliva. And the saliva does several things, but a big part of the saliva is it has digestive enzymes, amylase, protease, and lipase. In your mouth is to be like a concrete mixer, mixing, until the concrete powder is all soaked up the water, and now you have a compound concrete. Well, in the mouth, when you chew up your food, it's supposed to puree it, but infuse the spit, as I tell the kids in the school system, or the saliva. It's supposed to be infused into the food. The food soaks up the saliva, which means it's soaking up the amylase, the protease, and the lipase, which are chainsaws. But the work is not done there. The work is done in the first part of the stomach in digestion. You got the first part of the stomach, the second part of the stomach, and then in the small intestines. So when you drink your juice and just go and drink it, are you mixing the digestive enzymes with it? No. So you miss that first part of digestion that amylase, protease, and lipase does in the first part of the stomach. So what you want to do is what? Chew it. Chew your juice. So you take the juice. You might look like a cow, but that's okay. You got good digestion. They don't. And you chew it for about 10, 15 chews and then swallow it. It's something interesting also, I find. Prior to me learning this, I would have people who I'd have juice at the clinic. They would complain that they missed chewing food. They don't do that no more because the brain's happy. It's got that process of chewing. When you're chewing, that pumping mechanism pumps more saliva into the mouth. Okay.
What do you do about stress?
Go on vacation. It's Friday morning, and I have this lady come in, and Mary Lou's not at the house. She's up homeschooling the kids, so it's actually been 19 years ago. And so I'm standing there by myself at work, and the first year we started the store, and so I was able to do that by myself then. And so I had let's see here, 1, 2, 3, in my mind's eye, 3 or 4 ladies standing there. And I'm checking one out, talking to her, and this lady comes walking in, walks around, walks behind the counter, and she walks right up beside me, behind the counter, and she says, "You Walt?" "Yes." She said, "I heard you could help me. I need help." I said, "Well, I'm by myself today. I can't sit down and do a consultation, but Monday morning, come here at 8 o'clock, and I'll sit down with you." She said, "Okay." Walks around. About right there, she turns back and she says, "I will be the worst case you've ever had." Walks on out. And we're all, the 2, 3 or 4 ladies and me, we're thinking, what was that? And she dressed real weird. I mean, just real weird, like a gypsy, and just real weird, and her hair was real weird and strange. And she looked like a whooped dog. I mean, she looked bad. Monday morning, she was there. You would have liked it. On time. I mean, she wasn't early, she wasn't late, 8 o'clock. Boom, she had her hand on the door, ready to come in. On time. So you come in, she sits down. I sit down. I start doing a history. And she told me that she'd had some psychological issues. She'd been to a psychiatrist, and the medications didn't work, been to a psychologist, and the counseling did not work. And someone in Gatlinburg told her that our herbs would help her. So I'm needing a history. You got to know what's going on. Right in the middle of history, she says, "I need to tell you something." I said, "What's that?" She says, "I can make things levitate." Do you believe me? Yes, ma'am. She didn't say nothing. Okay. Do we have an idea of what's going on? Yeah. Real quick. Boom. We got a problem here, don't we? So I said, okay. I continued on with the history. about finished with the history. And she says, I need to tell you something else. I said, what's that? She says, you see that new O'Reilly's Auto Parts store across the street? I said, yes, ma'am. She says, I've never been in there, but I can tell you everything in there, where it is, exactly. Do you believe me? Yes, ma'am. What are we dealing with, y'all? What? It's right. And so very quickly we start moving to another way. Yes, she's got a brain issue. Stress. She said she had some issues with her brain as she presented herself. But we definitely know there's a brain issue if you have Satan issues. So I start talking about things she can do to improve brain function and things to stop doing and things to improve. And then I talked about Jesus, and you would have thought she was having an epileptic seizure. I mean, she started just shaking like I hit her with a cattle prod. And I said, what's wrong with you? You know, sometimes you just got to be, just be country. What's wrong with you? And she says, they don't like it. Not it, not he, they don't like that word. Okay? So we can continue on. I thought, well, let me do some experimenting here. Great opportunity for experimenting, Not everybody comes in this situation every day. And so I talked about God. She did not shake. And it showed me how much more Satan and his angels hate Jesus than God. So then I thought, let's test it again. Science is always testing, right? Test 2, 3 times. So I asked her, said something about Jesus again. Boom, there she goes to shaking again. So I said, okay. So I gave her some things to do. And I said, I want you to come back next Monday. And this is what I want you to do in the meantime. And this is to answer your question. I said, every time they start to talk to you, I want you to say, in Jesus' name, Satan, get thee behind me. I said, I don't care if you say it for 20 minutes or more. Keep saying it until they quit talking to you. Okay? So we get up, we had prayer, get up, start to leave, and God kind of tells you stuff sometimes, Yes? So I'm walking out, and then there's that little New Testament Gideon Bible that the Gideon fellows brought me the week before. I get it. And I said, ma'am, I want you to read on this book between now and next Monday. Okay, and she left. Next Monday she comes in, right on time, 8 o'clock. And she looked like a whole different woman, Hair still weird, dress still weird, but her face, her countenance is a whole different woman. And this time we didn't go sit down. We just sat there and we talked up front by the door. And I said, how are you doing? She says, oh, I'm doing good. I said, are they talking to you anymore? She says, nope, they can't. I said, what are you doing? She says, I said what you told me. They quit talking to me. I said, did you get a chance to read that little book I gave you? And she says, oh, yes. She says, I especially liked the first 4 books in that book. Now, what did it mean when she said especially? She'd read more than the first 4. I said, why? She says, because it talks about Jesus. And she did not shake. So to answer your question, number 1, Jesus. If you have stress. Y'all don't have that, do you? Can y'all make things levitate?
Sometimes. We don't levitate, but sometimes we have stress.
She told me in this process that she would be laying in bed and she would be picked up out of bed and thrown against the wall. Her husband validated that later. And stuff I did not even know happened that shouldn't happen was happening. And her husband validated it. The sad thing, she did very, very well. She started having some problems months later. And would you come in and see me? And I said, do you have anything in your house that could be part of this? And see, she had gotten into this by using some stuff, and I won't say it because we're being videoed here. And I don't want people to know about it. But someone had told her you could do this stuff and you could learn stuff. Real simple. Buy it at a health food store. Not my health food store, but some health food stores. And She kept them. And I said, you need to throw them things away, throw them in the river, get rid of them. But she wouldn't. And she's plumb back into where she was before. You got to obey. In John 5, Jesus goes to the pool of Bethesda. And what did Jesus say in verse 14 when he met that guy at the temple? Sin no more, lest a worse thing come unto thee. Yes? So when God heals you of whatever that issue is, you got a tongue like a striped snake, or you're miserable and ornery, or maybe you smoke. But when God heals you of it, don't go back. It can be worse.
It can come back 7 times,
Yes. Yes.
according to Scripture.
That's right. 7 times. This lady won't even come see me anymore. I'm sure they don't want her to come see me anymore. Yes, ma'am. Well, definitely, yeah, definitely juicing and smoothies are 2 different animals. You've got the juice, which has the fiber taken out. The smoothie still has the fiber. I like the juice from that's a whole nother class on medicinal, the benefits, which I'll be teaching. Our church does a cool thing. It's called how-to classes. Last month it was on how to grow microgreens. The month before that was Gardening 101. It might be, you know Jeremy Arnold?
Yes.
Jeremy's a great photographer. And when he was at our church, I go to the Greenville church, and Jeremy did a number of series of like 2 weeks full of classes on photography. He's a very good photographer. I have a physician that's into coin collecting, into stamp collecting. So we do how-to coin collecting, how-to stamp collecting. We have ladies do how-to all kinds of knitting and whatever. We have all kinds of agriculture classes. It's a way to get people into the church. Well, this coming Thursday night, doing a how-to class on juicing. But smoothies at night have the fiber. And so the average time that it takes to digest a meal with fiber is 2.5 hours. It can go 2.5 to 5 hours. Now, some foods go as much as 14 hours. So if you're going to do that smoothie, look at what time you're going to bed, because still you could have that issue of putrefaction, fermentation if you lay down within X time. Okay. First answer to your question, trusting God. That's the power. I mean, it's huge. I got this lady who comes. I'm looking at the time. I can drink my water now. So, I got this lady who comes in. Her son shot a state trooper somewhere out Midwest. He's in prison. He's going to be there the rest of his life. They told her she'll never see him again. She'll never hug him again. She can call him. She can send packages to him. But she will never see him again or hug him. Can you imagine that, ladies? Guys, I can't imagine it as a father. No way. Don't take my boys away from me or my girl. Significant stress. So what I had her do one day is I had her take a piece of paper and write out all of her stressors. All of her stressors. And then take another piece of paper, and in business we call it a T-bar, where you draw a line with a T and you say what went well, what didn't go well. Y'all know what I'm talking about there. So on this side, put controllables. On this side, put non-controllables. And of that list, okay, this is a controllable, like turning the lights out to save electricity. You can turn the lights out. That'll save you money. Turn the thermostat down, that's a controllable. Son's in prison, we'll never see him again, that's a non-controllable. Stick that one over there. And then I said, I want you to do this. I took the piece of paper and I ripped it in half. I want you to go home. And I want you to take this one here, non-controllable. And I want you to sit down with God. And I want you to give this to Him. Will you do anything for your kids that is within what God tells us that we can do? Even more so, He will do for us. Now, I said, do not go back and try to take that back from God. That's no longer yours. You gave it to God. I said, now Satan's going to come and he's going to bring it and say, your boy's in prison. You never see him again. That's not your problem. You say, that's not mine. That's God's. Now go on. Get out of here. If he keeps messing with you, in Jesus' name, Satan, get thee behind me, and just keep saying it. And she had to do that for a while. It works. That I can guarantee two things 100% that comes in my store, and I'll tell you the next one in a minute. But that's one. I can guarantee you 100% it works. Never have I had that not work, to have a person do that. And so that's another thing you can do for stress. And we'll talk about some other items in a few minutes. Another thing I can guarantee you, a person comes in with cancer. I can guarantee you 100% healing. I can guarantee you 100% healing. I had this guy call me the other day, about maybe 2 months ago now, and I'd never seen this before. Yes, I've dealt with phantom pain before. But this guy, he had a wound that should not have been let go to where it did. The leg had to be amputated below the knee. And there's no reason he should have been able to keep it. Well, he was having phantom pains, but also he just missed his foot. And he saw no future. None. No future. It was like blinders on his face, on his eyes, and he could not see anything past right now, grieving over his lost leg, the lower part of his leg, below the knee. I explained to him, just like thyroid, if you're having thyroid problems and you have the thyroid removed, thyroid issue, doing normal things to help thyroid ain't going to work because it's gone. You can't fix it when it's gone. I said, but I can guarantee you I can get your foot back. I can guarantee you 100% I can get your foot back. He goes, what? I said, yeah, I can get your foot back. He goes, how? I said, you got to do 4 things. Write them down. Number 1, you got to accept Jesus as your Savior every day. Not just when you're 8 years old, like happens where I'm from, but every day. Number 2, become real good friends with Him. It says when He comes back, if you don't know Him, He'll say you don't know you. So become real good friends with Him. Number 3, if you've done something wrong, ask for forgiveness of God and the person you've done wrong. And number 4, get your Bible and read it. If it says to do it, do it. If it says don't do it, don't do it. I said, I promise you, I guarantee you 100%, if you do all 4, you'll get your foot back when Jesus comes. The same thing for cancer. Do you know that guy's totally changed on that phone call? He had hope. He was so excited that he could get his foot back. Isn't that cool how God uses the right hand to let the gospel in? It's so neat. It really is. Okay, let's keep going. Sugar, besides being a driver behind other chronic health conditions like diabetes and heart disease, sugar consumption affects one's body's ability to fight off viruses or other infections in the body. Folks wonder, why do we get sick after Christmas? Well, look what you did for Halloween. Look what you did for Thanksgiving. Look at all them Christmas parties between Christmas, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Look at New Year's and you just wonder why everybody's sick. You dumped your immune system. White blood cells, also known as killer cells, is what we were talking about earlier with Nedley's research, are highly affected by sugar consumption. Sugar hinders the immune system by not allowing the white blood cells to do their job and destroy bad bacteria or viruses, as well as when they do not eat sugar. It anesthetizes. That's just a word for us to kind of understand. It just puts them to sleep. Sugar. Average Americans eat approximately 22 teaspoons of sugar a day. I do a little thing where I'll bring a child up and I'll have them put 10 teaspoons of sugar in a glass. And I'll ask the, well, first of all, I'll put water in it, and I'll ask the mom, is it okay if they drink this water? Sure, they can drink the water. Then I'll have the kid count out 10 teaspoons, and the whole audience counts out 10 teaspoons. I stir it up. I say, okay, can he have it now? No, water's good for you. It'll be fine. This is water. No. And then I'll pull out a 12-ounce soft drink. I said, this has as much as that does. Isn't that amazing? So 22 teaspoons of sugar each day is the average. That means more, like you and I don't do 22, so that means people are doing more than 22, like that fellow that was doing 3 liters a day of Mountain Dew. 150 pounds of sugar a year and 79 pounds of high fructose corn syrup a year, and that is a problem. I mean, high fructose corn syrup is in so much. It's in sweet pickles, it's in ketchup, it's in so much. Oh, I agree. I agree. In the state of Tennessee, we have a law that went into effect several years ago. Jeremy Faison's wife, who's a nutritionist, found a company that was cutting their their honey with high fructose corn syrup. And she's a nutritionist, and she's going, what if my kids were allergic to corn? And so Tennessee made a law. If you say 100%, it's got to be 100%. Yeah. Stress. Many of today's illnesses and diseases are triggered by chronic stress, which depresses the immune system and wreaks havoc on every organ in the system in the body. Exactly how stress causes and contributes to disease is a question of particular interest in researchers. There are 2 likely pathways. One is behavioral. People under stress sleep poorly and are less likely to exercise. They adopt poor eating habits, so we can see the correlation there. Smoke more, don't comply with medical treatment. Stress also triggers a response by the body's endocrine system, which releases hormones that influence multiple other biological systems, including the immune system. See, when you're stressed, you dump vitamin C, you dump vitamin E, you dump a bunch of nutrients that are required to keep your immune system up. Now, this is interesting. 1 minute of anger. Now, this is in the book. Either Proof Positive or Depression the Way Out. Who's read Depression the Way Out by Neil Nedley? That's a good book. Is that in there, Depression the Way Out? Okay, it's in one of the 2. So, 1 minute of anger can suppress your immune system for how long? 6 hours. So I'm teaching that class with Arvo, and Arvo's a neurologist, specializes in brain function. And I said, Arvo, you understand this real good. This is your specialty. 1 minute of anger can suppress your immune system for 6 hours. So let's look at the physiology of that. Then let's look at the physiology of 1 minute of stress. Is it similar? He says it's basically identical. I said, so therefore, can I say 1 minute of stress can suppress your immune system for 6 hours? He said, absolutely. It's kind of like Jif peanut butter. Y'all ever looked at the label of Jif peanut butter? Okay, so when you look at reading labels, if it has a comma, it means the item before is more than the item after it. But if it has an and, it means both items on each side of the and are the same amount. So, Jif peanut butter, first item, peanuts. And then is it a comma or an and? It's an and. And then what's the next item? Sugar. So it says peanuts and sugar. So legally you could call it sugar butter. Yes? Same thing. So here you could actually say 1 minute of stress can suppress your immune system for 6 hours. That's huge. Do you see why when God gave us those 8 laws of health, help me with them. Let's do the new start. Nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest. Do you see why He gave us trust in God? Do you see how beneficial trust in God is? Stress. It's huge. It's huge.
That gospel music on the radio sure helps when you get out on the interstate.
Oh, yeah. Now, yes, there's things. There was an old doc, and I wish I could remember his name. He was at Florida Hospital back in 1978. And he told me, he said, Walt, if you want to help your patients with stress, the best thing I found to help with stress, he said, is B complex. And I found it's true. B complex is phenomenal for stress. Yes, vitamin B complex, 100.
Not be complex.
Oh, no, don't be complex. Yes, okay. So vitamin B complex. And I like using like a B complex 100. So it's 100 micrograms or milligrams based on which B, like B2, B3 or milligrams, B12 is a microgram, except folic acid is usually around 400. There's another item that I learned, and was it you that did, who was it that did Depression on the Way Out? You? You, okay. Depression on the Way Out, I learned from Neil that lithium orotate is phenomenal for stress. Another one that's great for stress is magnesium. Magnesium is amazing for stress. Yeah. Okay. You could, yeah. There's different kinds of magnesium. And so you've got some that are like rifles and some that are like shotguns. So like Arvo, my neurologist friend, he uses Mactine or L-threonate, which is a different type of magnesium that's like a rifle for the brain because he does a lot with brain stuff. I like to hit the body overall. And so I like citrate, which is like a shotgun. It's great for the bowels. If you got somebody that's stove up, constipated, magnesium will loosen things out to bowel tolerance. If you have a problem with restless leg syndrome, 75% of muscle pain is magnesium deficiency. Number 2 is dehydration. Number 3 is potassium. Number 4, which is rising fast, and that is iron deficiency. And I was asking one of my ER buddies why he's seeing more iron deficiency in the ER, and he said the processed food. People aren't eating the greens. They're not eating good food. So the big 3 there are, what was the first one? Second one? Dehydration, potassium, and iron, yes. Blackstrap molasses, great source of iron. Yes. Yes, exactly. Same thing, yes. Now, you can do, let's say you get a person that you still really believe it's magnesium, but they have low bowel tolerance, they can't even tolerate 400 milligrams, then you can use magnesium oil. And you can spray it or you can put it in, I like one, it looks like a deodorant ball, a roller ball. And you can, if you just use only, or we say plum, magnesium oil, it tingles like a bunch of centipedes all over you. But if you add aloe vera to it, it significantly improves. Topical, transdermally. It will transdermally go in faster than PO. I still like PO by mouth because they still need it for their brain, for their heart, for their bowels, for everything else. But if you've got a problem, and a buddy of mine, he's a physician out in Washington, when he has a patient with angina, he just has them put it on their chest. It's amazing 2 to 3 times a day for cardiac failure patients to put it on the chest. Transdermally goes into the heart, works very well for heart failure. Yeah. Magnesium oil. Yes. Okay. Sleep provides essential support to the immune system. Getting sufficient hours of high-quality sleep enables well-balanced immune defense that features strong innate and adaptive immunity and less severe allergic reactions. Lack of sleep can affect your immune system. Studies show that people who don't get quality sleep or enough sleep are more likely to get sick after being exposed to a virus, such as a common cold. Lack of sleep can also affect how fast you recover if you don't get sick. And that's my problem. If I'm out working a call at night and a house fire, like I had a house fire, let's see, 2 weeks ago, I got sick. And I knew it was going to happen. And I didn't get bad sick, but I could feel my voice changed a little bit. And one night, it someone went to a gas station. You know them pumps that nobody's there, but you use your card, and the gas pump didn't turn off, so they just set it down and let it just keep running. And so I had to go work that situation with a bunch of gasoline all over the gas station. That was one night. And so the next night, we had a house fire. And I got back in bed, laid down. My alarm went off 20 minutes later, and I got up and went to work. And so those situations happen, and it's not good on my immune system. It's just cause and effect. It's that. I mean, I shouldn't expect anything different. That's just the way my body works, and most people. Not getting sleep. So these are things that you shouldn't do. Let's look at poor diet. Diets that are limited in variety and lower in nutrition, such as consisting primarily of ultra-processed foods, can negatively affect a healthy immune system. It is also believed that a Western diet high in refined sugar and red meat and low in fruits and vegetables can promote disturbances in healthy intestinal microorganisms. That is huge, y'all. This is amazing. It's called gut biome. And MIT is doing some amazing research on gut biome. Another good friend of mine, he's internal medicine over in North Carolina, sent me a video last week. This is something. This is amazing. This was a video of a gastroenterologist in California who just recently who won an award in the National Gastroenterology whatever. And it was on a study that she had done on a hypothesis, and it proved true. People who are vaccinated from the COVID vaccine, she started seeing their bifida going down. At 3 months, it bottomed out. 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, still bottomed out. That's not good. That's not good. And that's what it's talking about here, is the importance of that gut flora. And then she says she did research on women who were vaccinated, nursed the child. The child's bifida also bottomed out through the breast milk. Now, this is an issue. And I texted my friend back. We've known for a good 10 years that babies who have low bifida are at a higher probability of autism. So I text back to my buddy and I said, does this mean within a year to 2 years we're going to see a spike in autism? He said, I believe so. That's huge. That is huge. We don't need to do that to these kids. We're told that 75% of our immune system is determined in our gut flora. Very, very important. I was listening to this one, he was a physician, and I forgot where he taught. He was a professor also. He was at Johns Hopkins. And he said our gut flora should be like the rainforest. The rainforest. Yeah.
So what do you recommend for that? Probiotics every day, or just the types of foods that we eat?
Well, that goes back to the question we had at dinner. You know, because that's going to be in foods that like sauerkraut, kimchi, or they need to do a good probiotic. And a lot of the guys are saying, the physicians are saying at least 10 strains, 50 billion. But I've got one that's 100 strains, 100 billion. And I see huge benefit with that one. But something that's giving them those good probiotics again.
Usually take it like morning on an empty stomach.
Yeah, just take it first thing in the morning. Yep.
She's got a question.
Oh, yes.
I would like to know if you can get fibroid cure apart from doing the operation.
If you can do what?
Fibroid.
Oh, fibroids. Okay.
What are the remedy that you
The biggest thing I'm finding with fibroids is hormones. What's the estrogen doing? What's the progesterone doing? The best way I found to stabilize that is the same as Barbara O'Neill has found, is wild yam cream. Doing 1/4 of a teaspoon to 1/2 a teaspoon of wild yam cream twice a day over the affected area. If the lady's still cycling, stop day 1, start back at day 8. If they have 2 cycles a month, go through and apply through the second cycle. But wild yam cream is, what happens is, do you remember Dr. Lee in California that did the research back in the 80s and 90s? And he said, you got to stabilize progesterone to stabilize estrogen. Well, one of his assistants found that wild yam cream works better than progesterone cream to stabilize estrogen. And Barbara O'Neill's finding similar. I'm finding the same too. I do find that there are some people who progesterone works better, but it's less than 1%. The majority is the wild yam works extremely well. The second thing is adrenals. Blown adrenals affects female hormones. And a good thing for blown adrenals is nettle tea, stinging nettle. Take a quart of water, bring it to a boil, plumb turn it off, add 1/4 of a cup of stinging nettle, make an infusion. So a quart of water, 1/4 of a cup of nettle, stinging nettle. Make a tea of it, let it sit at least 30 minutes to overnight, strain it, drink it the next day. The next thing is flaxseed. 2 to 3 tablespoons of flaxseed, grind, eat within 15 minutes, twice a day. But on the fibroids, use a castor oil pack. Now, a castor oil pack is different than charcoal. A charcoal poultice draws out. A castor oil pack puts in. And so you take your piece of cloth, it can be flannel, something that wicks well, a man's white t-shirt. Don't use a colored one because colored has dyes, and you don't want them dyes going in you. So a white t-shirt or white, something. Put the castor oil on there, apply it to the affected area, put a piece of cellophane on it so it doesn't get your clothes messed up, put a heating pad or a hot water bottle. And what happens is transdermally, just like the magnesium oil, it's going into the body, to the fibroids. You may find that it's gone and you're going to have to, 6 hours later, put you some more on there and put it back on there. And do that throughout the day, the night. That is the best things that I have found. But you got to stabilize hormones. And what blows hormones? Adrenals. What blows the adrenals? Stress. Stress really messes up y'all's hormones. Food messes up y'all's hormones. Stress messes up our hormones. Food messes up our hormones, but especially y'all. Yes?
When you take a shower, she said, and you have your warm shower, always at the end of it, put cool right here on your back. Just have to shower.
Good. Yeah, that cold is... Yeah. And going back to Schultz says if you ain't screaming, it's not loud. It's not cold enough.
Another thing that affects hormones is any artificial scents, perfumes, any kind of dyes, things like that are artificially made, cologne.
Plastics.
Plastics.
Yeah. True.
Air fresheners, room deodorizers.
Yes.
Things like that.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be cold.
Right. You just want a contrast. It's called contrast. Yes. Yes.
Even the water that we have in the shower, if you don't have a filter, all that chlorine and fluoride and all.
It's a good question. I think we're going into old mountain remedies instead of immune system, but that's okay. I'm here to provide information. For thyroid issues, there's 4 no's on thyroid. There's some yeses and there's some nos. Number one no is no chlorine. Chlorine, fluoride, and bromide. All of those are higher on the periodic table, and they inhibit the thyroid from being able to absorb iodine, and the thyroid needs to have iodine. And so when you block its absorption by those three, fluoride, chlorine, fluoride, and bromide. So I read a study just a year or two ago that said you get more chlorine from taking a hot shower and breathing that hot vapor than you do from drinking chlorinated water. Transdermally, it's going to go in, but also you're breathing, it's going into your lungs and into your blood. Fluoride, fluorinated water, fluoride toothpaste. Bromide is a dough enhancer, dough preservative. It's from soft drinks all across. It's food processing. It's preservative. Food preservative. And then the last thing is Dr. William Davis found significant evidence to believe that the American wheat, the 42 chromosome, what we use the Roundup, that's what people know it as, the Roundup, that affects thyroid function also. So you want to stop all four of those. The things to do: iodine, zinc, copper, because when you take zinc, it's going to lower your copper. Selenium, L-tyrosine, those are all important for, and if you need an extra boost, take a B2 and B3 is going to help you absorb iodine even better. What's that? Oh, genetically modified food? Yeah, you don't want that stuff. Even alfalfa's GMO now. Did you know that pecans are now I was in a training course with the Forest Service, and this state forester was so excited to tell us that they've now hybridized pecans down in Alabama, or it was Alabama or Mississippi, somewhere down there. And I'm going, no, you don't want to hybridize that stuff. And he thought it was just so nice. They were all just similar. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I want to know the stevia plant sweeteners. What do you advocate about them?
I like just taking stevia. What are you using it for?
Oh, I put it on fruit sometimes that are kind of sour.
Okay. You can use stevia. Stevia has a 0 glycemic index, so it's not going to cause a problem with diabetes. The best way I like stevia is you know what peppermint looks like in the herb? You buy stevia as the herb. And literally, who likes sweet tea?
It's not dangerous.
No, not dangerous.
It's not like the other sweet.
No, it's not. It's perfectly fine. Who likes sweet tea? Y'all grew up on sweet tea? Sweet tea? Okay. We call it sweet tea. Okay, so sweet tea we grew up on. No, I don't drink it no more, but I grew up on it. And who knows Melody Prettyman? Melody Prettyman on 3ABN? She's now at she's now at Black Hills. Yes, she's a chef, yes. And so Melody came in one time, and which where we met, and she was talking about being from Texas, and she was missing sweet tea. And I said, I can make you sweet tea. And so I took a quart of water, brought it to a boil, plumb turned it off, took a heaping teaspoon of stevia, just the herb, chopped up, and made tea, strained it, and it's great sweet tea. And that's all it is, stevia, just the stevia leaves. Isn't that cool? That's neat. Nothing else. That's it. And you can grow stevia at your house.
Well, it's the most tasting like sugar of anything
Yeah,
I've come across.
but what happens is sometimes the white stuff, the extract, can have an aftertaste. This stuff has no aftertaste. It's really good. So what you can do is make a tea or put it in some water and then add it to whatever, and that way you don't have any aftertaste. Yes?
Is there anything you can suggest for people who might have gallstones?
Yes. You don't want dairy. And you can do a gallbladder liver cleanse. I was in Virginia. I got a phone call from a psychologist. He had been over in Czech, flying through Heathrow. At Heathrow, he got a gallbladder attack. Took him to the hospital. you're a different insurance thing. Let's stabilize you. Shipped him across the ocean in 8 hours to Virginia, to UAV, University of Virginia, Charlottesville, and it's the medical center there. They said, your gallbladder is plumb full. We're going to have to take it out. So he calls me. He says, can you help me with a gallbladder plumb full of gallstones? I said, maybe. So he came. And we did a 2-week program with him. And we did a gallbladder liver cleanse. If you clean the gallbladder, you're going to clean the liver. If you clean the liver, if you got a gallbladder, you're going to clean the gallbladder. So we did, here's the formula. You do, first of all, on everything I say today, the first thing is what? Pray. That's just a given. That's just a given. Because none of this heals. Only God does the healing. So what you do is for 3 days, you drink apple juice. With dark, that dark apple juice like you get in October from the apple, like apple cider. Yeah, they just squeezed apple juice. You don't want the stuff in the middle of the store because it doesn't have the pectin. The pectin is what you're after. And the pectin softens the gallstones. So you do a quart each day. Now, if you want to do it highfalutin, you know what highfalutin is? Highfalutin? Explain highfalutin for me. High tech. High tech. So if you want to really do it high tech, juice. Do a vegetable juice at the same time. And I'll come back to that. So you do it for 3 days. The night of the 3rd day, you take 3 ounces of lemon juice, 3 ounces of olive oil. Now, if you're in another country that does not have olive oil, you can use 2 ounces of coconut oil and a piece of ginger your size of your thumb. Blend it up. And if you have known gallstones, I would use lobelia and do 30 drops of lobelia. Lobelia dilates the bile duct to where you don't have gallstones to get stuck. Then what you do is lay down on a heating pad under your gallbladder or a hot water bottle for 1 hour. Now, don't do this before going to bed. Do this about 5 or 6 o'clock. Now, most of the people I deal with, they can do it whenever they want to and they ain't going to have no problem. For us, it may bother us because we're not used to eating that much oil. But where I'm from, like the folks around here, you fry everything. Maters, taters, ice cream, pickles, cheese, okra. And if you don't fry it, you pour oil in it. When my grandma made green beans, I'm just a pot of green beans, she would put more than 1 cup of vegetable oil in that thing. Looked like an oil slick on top of it. And that was here in Georgia. And it was good to my tongue then. I wouldn't want it now. But that's what we're used to in the South. We like a lot of oil. Well, for that typical Georgian, that typical East Tennessean, that 3 ounces is nothing. It ain't going to bother them. But for us, it may bother us. So do it around 5 o'clock. So if it does bother you, it doesn't wake you up at midnight if you did it at 9. So if it was going to bother you, it bothers you about 8 o'clock, and drink you some peppermint tea, and that'll calm it right down. And so for 3 days, you're doing a quart of apple juice each day. For the first night, you do 3 ounces of olive oil, 3 ounces of lemon juice, a piece of ginger your size of your thumb, 30 drops of lobelia, and swallow it. And then lay on a hot water bottle or something for an hour and get up and do whatever. That is going to back flush the gallbladder. And it's going to back flush the liver. Into the colon. The next morning, you got to flush the colon. So you're going to take a half a gallon of warm water. You'll take 5 teaspoons of sea salt and the juice of 2 lemons. Now, the lemons are just for taste. You could put some vegetable bouillon cubes or something. You're going to stir it up and put it in 2 mason jars. Drink 1 mason jar, quart, over a 15-minute period. Drink the other one in a 15-minute period. But you got to do it all in 30 minutes. Have you ever flushed a toilet with a bucket of water? Okay. If you had just a little bit at a time, is it going to flush? Need volume. So the volume of a half a gallon flushes the colon. The warm water helps to flush the colon. The salt helps flush the colon. The lemon juice is to make it taste a little bit better.
How much salt and lemon juice again?
The lemon juice is the juice of 2 lemons and 5 teaspoons of salt. You're just a hair over isotonic. So you're fine. But if you take and you say, you mix it out over 2 hours, you're not going to flush and you're going to absorb that 5 teaspoons of salt. But if you drink it all in 30 minutes, you're going to flush it all out and it's not a problem. Now, stay by the toilet for 2.5 hours. If you only got one toilet at the house, it is yours. Because don't even try to go to the other side of the house because you may not make it back. Stay by that toilet for 2.5 hours. I have people who come that have GIs, they have colonoscopies, and their GIs will give them, what's the stuff? I forgot what we used to use, but anyway, that nasty stuff. They can do this right here, and the gastroenterologists have no idea. It cleans them out, clean as can be. Now, here's the key. If you want to you work in healthcare, okay, you want to get scientific, here's what you do. This isn't too highfalutin, but it helps you. So what you do is you get you a hanger, a metal hanger. You stretch it square. Then you go down to Walmart, and you get that material that women stick under their dresses, that crinoline stuff, their wedding dresses. It looks like fishnet. And you get it a little bit bigger than that hanger. And you staple it with a stapler on that hanger. And you set the hanger on the toilet and then put the seat on there. And you then get you a water pitcher, a pitcher of water, some gloves, and a little bowl or a cup, disposable. And then when you go each time, pour that water through there. If there's any solids, then you'll pick it up. That looks like a stone maybe. So you pick it up and you squeeze it. If it squeezes like a jelly bean, it came from the liver. That's a globule. And they can be fluorescent green to dark brown. But that's not a gallstone. But if it's hard, then save that in the cup. That's one of your gallstones. How long do you do this? Night, morning, at least 5 days. But what we did for our patients when we juiced them during this time, we would have them go until the liquid in the morning was clear. It no longer had that dark color because they were juicing. It no longer had solid pieces in it, and it no longer had an odor. For some people, it'd be 5 days. Some people, it was 11 days. And that's how long we would do it. And that's a better cleanse. Does that make sense? Works very well. So the doctor, the psychologist, goes back to UAB. I mean, not UAB, to Virginia. They're at Charlotte. They scanned his gallbladder, totally empty. I used to be a director of a lifestyle center. I can't do that anymore because I'm doing this on the weekends. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
My TSH level is extremely high. My thyroid's been out of whack for years. I can't get it to come down. My TSH is running about 150 right now. Is there any alternative to?
That's high.
They've got me on 3 different thyroid medications daily.
That's real high.
Still not coming. I know it's my TPO is running about 637.
Here's what I do. The items we talked about before. Number 1 is no chlorine, fluoride, bromide, and no wheat. No wheat at all. The things that you want probably, I would say, and this is, I just share things, do your own research, and pray and ask God what you need to do. I'm just an educator. But normally folks will do somewhere between 12.5 to 50 milligrams. 12.5, 25 milligrams, or 50 milligrams of iodine. Now that's potassium iodide and potassium iodine. That's a Lugol solution. But I like the pills better than the liquid because the liquid, the absorption time the working time is about an hour and a half. Compared to the pills, it's about 12 and a half hours. So I see better benefit of it by using the pills. And so you're doing anywhere between 12.5 and 50 milligrams. Pray, ask God how much you need to do. everything I've said today. Pray. Ask God what you need to do. Number 2 is what folks will do is they'll do, for your situation, they'll do between 250 to 500 milligrams of B2, 500 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams of B3. They'll do somewhere between 30 and 60 milligrams of zinc, 3 to 5 milligrams of copper. See, when you use zinc, you deplete copper. Just like when you use calcium, you use up magnesium. L-tyrosine, anywhere between 500 and 1,000 milligrams of L-tyrosine. But look at the adrenals. Look at the adrenals. Blown adrenals is affecting thyroid. And so how do we attack the adrenals? There's a product called Adrena Sense, A-D-R-E, Adrena, A-D-R-E-N-A, S-E-N-S-E, I think. I can't spell. Capital A, capital S, all one word. Adrena Sense. It's got like 4 or 5 herbs in it. It's herbs. And it's phenomenal on building back the adrenals. Those are the items that I would do. There are some folks that have found benefit in using, say, a charcoal poultice for 1 week, a charcoal poultice over the thyroid for 1 week, a bentonite clay poultice over the thyroid for another week, and a castor oil pack over the thyroid for another week, and just keep rotating it. And how do you know what to do? Guys, this is real scientific. Real scientific. You collect information, and then you sit down with God, the medical director, and you say, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Why is it scientific? It is the science. That is true science. Is it not? In inspiration, it talks about true education. So if there's true education, there must be false education. In inspiration, it says there is true medical mission, or true health. Therefore, there must be false health. If you sit down with God and say, God, what do I need to do? Here's these items. What is your prescription? You do it when you buy a car. You do it when you buy a house. I did it when I was going to buy that tractor, and he said no. You just do what God says you to do. If he tells you no, don't do it. People come to me and they have cancer. And they say, Walt, do I need to do chemotherapy, radiation? I share with them about 4.5 pages of lifestyle stuff for cancer. And then I say, okay, you ask God what you need to do. If God says do chemotherapy, you better do it. But if he says don't, you better not. Do what he tells you. It works. Yes, ma'am. Pardon? High cholesterol. High cholesterol. Oh, that's a real good point. Used to be 300. And then 100 plus your age. Someone came in the other day, last year, and they said the doctor said if it's over 100, they got to take. Someone came in several months ago and said the doctor said anything over 50. That's crazy. Crazy. So what do you do? First thing you do for cholesterol. Let's look how it works. Look at your kitchen sink. You got a hole about this big where the water comes out. You got a hole about this big that the water goes out the drain. You can turn both spigots on and you are fine unless you occlude it. But then let's say someone comes in, they start pouring in 5-gallon buckets of water. Is it going to overflow now? Majority of people with high cholesterol, it's where they're adding extra cholesterol. Now, where do we get cholesterol? The number one place is food. So how do you know if food has cholesterol? Number one, not only, but number one, if it has a mama. If it has a mama, a mother, it has cholesterol. So if it comes from an animal, dairy, or meat, then it has cholesterol. Number two, Dr. William Davis, the cardiologist I mentioned a little while ago, he's been studying this since 1990. And again, he's a cardiologist. He is finding that the American wheat, the 42 chromosomes, increases LDL, increases cholesterol. We know that we've known for years that cashews eaten in abundance lowers HDL. Now, every once in a while is fine, but if you're making cashew cream, cashew gravy, cashew milk, cashew butter, cashew whatever, every day, your cholesterol is going to go up because your HDL is going down. Those are things that can cause cholesterol to go up. There's some other things, but that's the big ones. So what do? Yes, there's statins, but a statin just hews around it's like hewing around a tree. The tree's going to die. One of them branches is the body's production of cholesterol. But the problem is another one of them branches is the body's production of coenzyme Q10. Another branch is the body's production of a chemical that helps with short-term memory. And NASA figured this out. NASA said, we got to quit using statins because the astronauts are having short-term memory problems. That's not an option. And so you got side effects, not to mention the leg cramps and whatever. So what do you use? Yes, you can use red yeast rice. That helps, but it's a natural statin. But you still have to take CoQ10, coenzyme Q10. But you could take something like Cholesterol Pro. That's a fruit, and that works very well. 2 in the morning, 2 at night, twice a day for the first month. After that, 1 twice a day. Works great for lowering cholesterol. There's another one called Listeril by Alimed. It's from garlic. And that will lower cholesterol. You take 3 a day. So those are 2 things you can take to lower the cholesterol if you're not putting the cholesterol in. Another way you can lower cholesterol. This is interesting. Oh, niacin. Niacin can do it. Yes. But,
I do garlic.
uh-huh.
I crush the garlic.
Yes.
Boil the water.
Mm-hmm. It may not be enough. It may not be enough garlic. The Listeril has allicin in it. And to make 1 drop of allicin, it takes 24 cloves of garlic. It's strong. Another thing that can lower cholesterol, over 50% of your cholesterol is just under your skin. Do you know who some of the best folks well, actually, they are the best in Virginia for lowering cholesterol? I don't recommend it at all, but it's those colonies that people go and dress a certain way or lack of dress certain ways. I don't recommend that. No, they don't have cholesterol problems, and that's proven scientifically. Sunbathing. Kellogg used sunbathing. And what happens is when you're out in the sun, the ultraviolet light hits the skin. Underneath your skin is cholesterol. It converts the cholesterol into melanin into vitamin D. And so literally people who sunbathe lower their cholesterol. That depends. Yeah, it depends on the person. Yeah.
I hate to do this, but we're going to have to send you home.
Yes?
You started at 4:30 this morning.
Yes. We haven't even gotten a fourth of the way through that.
I know, but you got to go home because you got to get some rest.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
And we do not want you sick because of us.
I appreciate that.
So I hate to call this to an end because.
Well, I have an answer to it.
What's that?
What you can do is go online.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Yeah. Go online, or you can go to Amazing Discoveries. Go to Amazing Discoveries. Amazing Discoveries. Amazing Discoveries. I've got a good friend. He's a gastroenterologist. And when his patients come in, he says, okay, here's your prescription. Here's what I want you to eat. Here's how much exercise I need you to have. Here's how much water I need you to have. Here's how much time I want you outside. I want you to quit smoking. I want you to quit drinking. I want you to go to bed by 9 o'clock. What did he just give? The 8 laws of health.
Yeah.
That was his prescription as a gastroenterologist. Then he says, I want you to go to this place. This isn't the cool part. This is not the cool part. He says, I want you to go to Amazing Discoveries. And there's this guy on there called Walt Cross.
Who's he?
Yeah. And he says, I want you to watch him. And so they'll come back the next time and they've watched the videos I did with Amazing Discoveries. That isn't the cool part. Then he says, okay, did you do that? Okay, did you eat this diet? And he goes through all those 8 laws of health. He said, did you watch the guy, Walt Cross, at Amazing Discoveries? And they'll go, yes. And he goes, okay, I have another Walt there I want you to watch. That's the cool part. He has them watching Walter Veith.
Okay.
But go to Amazing Discoveries or go to our website, themustardseed.us, and you can watch a lot of this information that I put up on YouTube.
Well, we want to have prayer with you, and I hate to do this, but we're going to send you off because you started out at 4:30 this morning, and it's going to take you about 4 hours to get back home. And I know you'd like to sleep in your own bed.
My wife's expecting that.
She is?
Yes.
Okay. And she's a good lady, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's stand and let's have a word of prayer with him, okay? Our dear, kind Heavenly Father, I just thank you for letting Walt come down here today and spend his time. Lord, he's given us a good 12 hours of his time this morning or this afternoon, sharing with us, and it doesn't seem to be running out. And Lord, we pray that you will help us to watch on the Walt program, Amazing Walt. Anyway, Discoveries, yes, Lord. Help us to watch that and grow more understanding about what we can do to help our health. And we thank you that he came down here for us. Guide him, give him a safe trip back, and we just ask that your will be done in him. Thank you, Lord, for all the things that he's doing in his county, giving back to the people that live at home. Thank you, Lord, for what he's giving. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.